Hey everybody, welcome to episode 15 of the Brushback Baseball Podcast with Tyler Ramatula and David Klein. I don't really know if it matters if it's episode 15 because time is a circle right now. Nothing matters. But we're excited today to have Billie Plunk on the episode with us for a completely different perspective than what we looked at in any of our prior episodes. Billie, married to Eric Plunk. Hi, Billie.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on, Billie.
Thank you.
Billie has been married to Eric Plunk, longtime baseball player, retired with, most people know if they were following in the 90s with the Indians, but also with the Yankees, A's, and a couple other teams. So, yeah, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
Tyler, why don't we get started with kind of how'd you guys meet?
Well, Eric, of course, he signed out of high school. I don't know if you've looked up all of that, but anyway, he signed out of high school with the Yankees, and he actually, went to like a mid-season at, in Bradenton, Florida, and then the next year he was supposed to go to Oneonta, New York, and because there's an age you have to be 18, and he wasn't 18 yet. He couldn't go to Oneonta. So as he was pulling out, they're like, hey, you're going to Paintsville, Kentucky. And he's like, what? Where is that? Because he's a total California boy. So that's where I come in. So he drives to Kentucky. And anyway, when he gets there, that's where people let the players stay in their houses and stuff. But he had an apartment, but he had two other roommates that lived with him. And so anyway, when he got in town, there was one payphone, back then we're payphone, and he was on the phone like all the time, like on this little payphone booth. So that was like where I first saw him. And I was like, what is this guy doing? And my mom actually has a restaurant still to this day, but she had a restaurant and I was a waitress there. So he came in, and anyway, long story short, got a steak. I was so flustered I couldn't even figure out the price difference. So my mom said, give him a discount.
Take it.
Yeah, I said $3.50, and of course he's a minor league guy, and boom, he did it. And he was like, he actually left his keys on the table.
On
yeah,
purpose.
Right. Yeah. And
Smooth,
so
smooth.
Yeah. I think it was planned now, but anyway. So he had an apartment right down at the corner of my mom's restaurant. We were getting ready to close after they left, and my mom went down and we took the keys, and he was like, well, would you like to go out? And I was like, well, the same movie plays in the town for all summer. So, yeah, sure. But so anyway, we ended up going, he left me a ticket at the ball game, and I went to the game, and I said, I'll make you dinner afterwards. And of course, in the Southern way, fastest way to a man's heart is through his stomach. That's my route. So anyway, I did that, and that's how we met. So, all summer long, we were quite the item.
Did you know when he was coming into the restaurant, did you know that he was one of the minor league guys just before that?
My hometown's only 3,500 people, so everybody kind of knows. But I wasn't really like, following it or whatever. I wasn't like, it just was, everybody made a big deal about, oh, this team's coming in town, whatever. But it was an independent, it was the minor leagues for the Yankees. So it was kind of a big deal. Actually, they played at a high school baseball field that
really?
that the town like put together. So it would be like, to code so they could play, a professional team there. So it was pretty cool. Now we go back and it's all changed, but it's cool. A lot of memories there.
That's awesome. That actually kind of a little closer. I met my wife when I was playing in the minor leagues too. So,
cool.
In low A. Yeah. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So see, everything's not really Bull Durham. They just think it is. That was just a movie.
I love that movie.
But we've all got our own. I know. Yeah, me too. I love it. So it was cool. So that's how we met. And then of course, he left at the end of the summer, and we're like, oh yeah, he'll call me. Not. So anyway, he didn't for a while. And then, in January, I started in college in Florida, and lucky for us, he ended up playing in the Florida State League for 2 years. So we were able to date there. And, then at the end of that, we got engaged and then got married the following summer. The following winter, November. Had to be a November wedding.
Off season, of course.
November 85 then, right?
We got married in 84.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're married at that point in time, and then in 86, the Yankees, the end of 84, he gets traded from the Yankees to Oakland. So you guys were a newlywed couple, and say pack your bags.
Yeah, well, we had kind of been like a little bit prepared, not really prepared for the trade, but that in the winter he went to the Dominican Republic and played, and I couldn't go, I was working because that's how we survived back then, and so he went, but that was for his career, and so a little bit of a separation we kind of had, and then the next year I was able to go with him when he went to the Dominican. So, but that was kind of a big deal too. It was like, we kind of knew the separation, but like I said, we were babies, and it was like, we both cried like, oh my gosh, are we ever going to see each other? Cause it's hard. I mean, as you well know, if you met your wife in the minor leagues, you tend to hold on to each other, and it's like, that's really all you've got. So anyway, we were kind of prepared, but still there's a lot left that, when he got the call and he got traded, one of the hardest things, I guess, is he was not making the money that, the other players were. So when you get the call, you're just like, okay, he's going, but they're not paying for me to go.
Right.
So, he gets a ticket, and they're like, okay, this is when you got to be there. Like the next day they traded him because they want him. So he has to go. And it's like, but when am I going to see you? And we're like, we don't know. Because I had to move and, pack up and everything. So it was definitely, and then still I'm dealing with the emotions like, these wives that I've met here are like my friends, you think, and especially being on like a championship team, you just felt like you belonged, and you just felt like, they kind of betrayed us by trading us, but that's not it at all. But that's the way you kind of feel.
So, and I was going to mention, I forgot to mention this, but Eric and the Yankees and the A's were playing footsie a couple of times, and actually traded Eric for Ricky Henderson,
twice.
Not once, but twice.
Yeah.
So that's that's a cool little transactional thing.
That's
in the
kind
past.
of like a big deal right now, because it's funny. I don't know. I guess with all this downtime with the coronavirus, everybody's writing books and articles and everything. And so he's had several reporters call him and, interview him about stuff like that. In fact, yesterday there was just an article in MLB.com, a really nice article that, about Eric and the trade and stuff. And he's pretty funny. You'll have to meet him sometime. But anyway, my husband's pretty funny. And
yeah, maybe you can get him on here for us.
Yeah, I will. But he said, in the article, it's, just kind of a side note, baseball mentality. They said, so Eric, when did you get the call or whatever? And he said, it was 8:00 in the morning. And he goes, I was actually up taking a pee when they called him. And he was like, nobody knew not to call at 8 in the morning, because we were on baseball schedule. But anyway, they did. And that's when they told him that he was getting traded. So it was definitely a shock. So anyway, and we, at that time, we thought we were like, really rolling in life, because, we had an apartment, because usually when you're just getting called up, you're living in a hotel, back and forth, because you're only up there sometimes because somebody got put on the DL or something like that. So, you don't want to get too settled until after your 3 years,
right?
Until you get a guaranteed contract, I guess. So
yeah, anyway. That's one of the things, because obviously, as a player, people don't really understand, as a player, you kind of just understand to roll with the punches and always be ready for, to go wherever on any call. But, the significant other, like you, they have to be equally as ready and to roll with the punches as well. And I think a lot of people don't really think about that. So, and that firsthand. So,
yeah, it's definitely, like a big adjustment for any wife, girlfriends are kind of like, ooh, they don't really know what they're getting into, because they think it's all like the limelight. But, I was one of the wives that's fortunate even today to say, we've been together for 37 years and, it's a long road. We've been there, done that. Like my husband used to say, like every dot that could be dotted on a paper when they say you're released, you're traded, you're sent down, you're sent up, like we've had it all happen to us. So, we're kind of like, we know
you're seasoned.
Game, so yeah. Yeah. Somebody once said that we should have a group called Fab. They wanted to name it because it was laundry detergent, Fab. Families After Baseball. So just for the wives. Yeah.
Hey, that sounds like a good idea.
I know. I think they were trying to get MLB to kind of help them on it too, but right now everything's kind of out of commission. So anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, it was super fun. It's a great life. I absolutely enjoyed it. And Eric even said in the article about Ricky, he said, he goes, we never really they played against each other. They never played on the same team. And he goes, sometimes he wished that, they would pass each other in the airport or something, because that's almost what it seemed like,
Yeah.
that they were just passing. They didn't really, but he would face him, they would face each other and stuff. But anyway, it is what it is. So
I should have looked it up. So what was it like as a new couple when Eric actually got the call from Oakland the first time?
It was Mother's Day, and Mother's Day, he got the call, and it was 86. He got the call, and it was a Sunday, obviously, and it was a shock. I mean, of course, we're all we were in Tacoma, Washington at that time, and Eric was really lucky though, because when he signed to play pro ball, then all of the teams that he was with were pretty stacked. Coming from the Yankees organization, they stack the teams, because you sign with the Yankees, but you kind of play good because you want to be traded to be able to that they're going to trade you. Eventually, they're stacking the team. And then we went, the AA ball that Eric went to was, let me back up. A ball, it was Florida State League, and they won the title every year that he played, the 2 years that he played there. Then he went to Huntsville, Alabama, and they actually built a team, and there were incredible players on that team. There was Jose Canseco. There was Terry Steinbach. There was, just a whole list of incredible players that had awesome careers that were there. And they literally stacked the team, because they told them if they built the stadium that they'd put championship series. I mean, they team together, and they did. So then we went to Tacoma, and they were actually winning as well. And then we got the trade, of course, in May. They were playing really good. And so Eric got called up, and I forget the guy's name that was on the disabled list. He got called up. I think it was Chris Candonati or something like that. I don't know. It's way back. But
Tom
they called him up. Yes, that's it. Yeah. And see, we all have to work together here. I'm old.
Useless baseball history is my
book. Yeah. And so he was hurt, I think, and so that's why they called Eric up. And then if he came off the disabled list, then Eric was going to be there. So I'm waiting in the wings, because if he doesn't, if Tom comes off the disabled list, then Eric gets sent back down, so it's
right.
back and forth and back and forth. But anyway, he got to stay up there, and then he did get sent down one other time. And then real quick, we were called back up, and then, that's pretty much all she wrote. He was up there for a while, because I think it was 3.5 years, and he was in the big leagues from high school. So he's very fortunate.
And I was looking back through his history, and I think you guys are pretty fortunate, because he didn't look like he had very many stints where he went back down to the minor leagues.
No.
There was only he came up in 86, and then he only had a couple, one in 87, one in 92. And so maybe those two.
Yeah, that was it. Other than the fact that, when we got released from the Yankees, he went back to away for Cleveland, because they wanted him to just go and make sure he was healthy, because it was right after spring training.
Yeah.
And they said, would you go to Double-A, because that was closer, to Cleveland. It was Canton, Akron is where he went. And they were like, we just want you to go down there just to make sure you're healthy, and then we'll call you back up. And we're like, okay, what options do we have?
Yeah.
we're down, so anyway, but that's how he ended up going to Cleveland. So yeah, it was an eye opener as well. But the thing is the wives pretty much all we stick together. I mean, but you feel like that I don't know, I've always said that when you're in a corporation, it's like you retire, they have you a party, blah, 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 all this stuff. But when you're in baseball, it's like you're only as good as your last outing. Mm-hmm. And really, the wives are just existing. We're not really a part of the team. I mean, we are, but we're not. We do the food drives, and we do all the stuff that, brings in a lot of money for the team. When we were in Cleveland, I might be rushing around for you, but anyway, when we were in Cleveland, like there was the wives team, and I mean the wives, we had that team was stacked too. And well, the first year it really wasn't because we were at the old stadium, but then the new stadium when they opened that, you know, they wanted to do Make-A-Wish Foundation. They wanted to do every kind of charity thing they could do, and I was president of the wives. So.
Nice.
Anyway, it was super cool though. But, you know, that year we raised $50,000 for Make-A-Wish, which, you know, I was pretty proud of because, you know, that says a lot. It's like we all pulled together. You know, we do things like, oh, we make a quilt, you know, like everybody does a square and we put it all together and, you know, try to sell raffle tickets for it, you know, and, you know, that's just what we do. And then, of course, they do the food drive and different things like that. But, you know, we do behind the scenes. I mean, the wives, even in New York, I mean, it was literally like we would take the food cans and drop them off behind the stadium. That was pretty much like the food drive in New York because the need's there. And, you know, nobody really knows who you are, but they know your husband. So we'd have to wear their jersey to make sure people know, oh, yeah, that's somebody. But anyway, but that's what we did. So that's how we kind of got all around, but we all kind of stuck together.
How many were you one? Did you go to like almost every single game, or was it just kind of whatever you kind of felt like?
I am the biggest baseball fan of my husband. And in fact, when he got traded from Oakland, okay, so this is going way back, but Mother's Cookies used to do like baseball cards in the cookies. And so they used to do baseball cards. And so when you'd buy the cookies, you know, you'd get that. So anyway, long story short, they would give the players an uncut sheet of all the, you know, baseball cards.
Yeah.
And the first year, you know, we went to the playoffs with the Dodgers. You know, well, we went to the World Series with the Dodgers. And so that year was really, you know, cool too. Yeah, look at you. Well, my husband struck out the side when he pitched there. So whatever. He did his job. Now, the rest I don't know about. But anyway, that year, Eric, the whole team, they got Rolaids relief, you know, they were like a nucleus, you know, they had the Bash brothers. I mean, they were pretty dominant.
Yeah.
And super cool, you know, and so that's why we felt like we really belonged there. And then the next year was the earthquake year, and that's the year that we got traded. And so anyway, when we got traded, we didn't really. Well, now I forgot what you were asking me about. So it was really good, though.
I was asking if you were one of the. Did you go to like every game or?
Oh yeah. And so and the Mother's Cookies I was telling you. So the Mother's Cookies, the next year after he went back when he had gotten traded in New York, and then he went back to play in Oakland, and I said, "Did you get the Mother's Cookies thing for me?" And he goes, "Oh, I just gave that to the guy." Let me tell you, we almost got divorced over that because that's like a big deal because they had Walt Weiss on there, Mark McGuire, and Jose Canseco. Like all three Rookie of the Years were on this like uncut thing. And I was like, are you kidding me?
So did you hunt this thing down?
Well, I mean, the clubbies don't really make a lot of money, you know, so it's like, and, you know, now it's like who's going to pay the money for it? You know, it's like now you look at it, but at the time I thought it was like, you know, worth my life.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, I can't believe you got rid of that. So he didn't care.
That was a serious roster.
That was pretty awesome. But all three of those guys, like, can you believe that? Rookie of the Years. When would all three be on one team?
I hope you still mess with him about that.
Oh, believe me, that's yeah. In fact, somebody where he gives pitching lessons now, pitching and hitting lessons, and for the facility they wanted one of his jerseys, and so he had to get one out, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to take it over there." And I was like, "It better not be the one with the World Series on it," you know. And he's like, "Whatever," you know. He's like, "They're my jerseys." That's where it finally ended. He was like, "Well, they are my jerseys," and I was like, "I don't care." But yeah, that's the only time we really had like major issues is when he wants to get rid of baseball stuff.
That's funny.
With that long of a career, does he have a full closet full of jerseys just dedicated?
It was 14 seasons, right?
He played 16-year career and 14 years in the big leagues.
Okay, wow.
Yes. Oh, no. I'm sorry, a 20-year career, but 16 years in the big leagues. Yeah. Okay. So, we have quite a few. We have a lot of like baseball memorabilia, and you know he would probably let more of it go, but because they're kids, we didn't really have kids. Well, when he retired, our son was 9 and our daughter was 7 at the time. And so he didn't really care about any of the stuff. I was doing scrapbooks for him and everything. And the kids were just like, after he retired in 2000, and our kids got old enough that they knew that their dad played baseball. They were like, well, Dad, can't you just like go back and play? And he's like, no, it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
So he didn't, you can't just call up and say, hey, I want to go back and play.
Right.
So,
I was going to ask that kind of, when you mentioned your kids, I wanted to ask and see, so you said they were 9 and 7 when he retired, which was in 99 or 2000.
Yeah.
Looked like he
2000.
played. Okay. So, I mean, that's quite a few years where you had to kind of hold the kids down while he's doing throughout the season. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, that's a huge job. I mean,
yeah. Well, I remember when we were in Cleveland was when, we had our son in New York, and that was, terrifying because we lived in New Jersey, but just the thought of like having our kid in like New York and first baby and all this stuff. And, but we had, other people there on the team and stuff. And I remember just one time, it was my first kid, like I said, and I was, at that time I was 26 years old and I was terrified. I'm like, no family there or anything. And everybody's like, oh, it's fine. You'll get through it. And of course you do. But, and then the next year, okay, so my son was born in August. And then the next year we went to spring training, and then that's when Eric got released. And here we are, I've got a newborn kid, but fortunately that was in spring training. All of a sudden I start going out buying generic everything because, we're stuck in Florida and, I'm like, well, oh my gosh, this is it. What if we don't get any more money and whatever, because the thing that people don't understand is even when we bought our first house, people don't understand that unless you're like a bonus player and you get like bank when you sign, I mean, you go and it was like they even had questions about like signing us, letting us get our loan for our house because you don't actually get paid the whole year. If you're up, you get paid, until the first 3 years, you get so much money if you're in the big leagues. I think at that time it was like if we were in the big leagues, we got $5,000 the month. And if you were in the minor leagues, then you got,
peanuts.
I don't know. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
But that's part that you can travel. You can do anything you want. But if you don't have the money to do it, I mean, you have to go with a budget. Like right now, my heart goes out with the players not playing and stuff. I mean, the minor league players and stuff, it's just heartbreaking because they just send them home. I mean, they have come together and, the teams are paying them something right now. But we were a part of the strike year in 97. No, I'm sorry, 94 when that's when our daughter was born. And it was good for us because, at that point, Eric was established and he was, had made some money and, so we came home and it was just like an early off season for us. But the heartbreak is for people that, are just coming up and they haven't, really been established. And, I mean, just like everything, it's like they live for, that meal money and everything that they get in spring training. And so right now, I'm sure there's, like the world is, but we're all like definitely, our hearts are going out for those people because they don't even know what the next thing's going to be. And, they're just a minor leaguer, which they have potential to be great. And, but that all comes with performance. So it's really heartbreaking.
We actually talked about it like a couple episodes ago about the minor leaguers. They're in this really weird thing where they're under contract with the team, so they can't collect unemployment, and they've got to stay in tip-top shape too.
Right.
With no gyms open.
Right.
So.
And right now the whole game is like changed so much. I mean, when Eric first signed to play baseball, and I'm sure he'll tell you that sometime, if he's on, but when he was with the Yankees, it was obviously one of the highest honors he felt, in baseball to be signed with the Yankees. And, they were very strict. It's like you wore your stirrups a certain way. Your wife couldn't come. I mean, your girlfriend couldn't come. Yeah. Like they were clean cut, everything. I mean, it was definitely, I mean, he's very fortunate that he went through their whole minor league system, but it's not like that today. And nowadays, we're not there, but I mean, the whole game just has changed. It was like, I'm not saying that players don't have the ability, because obviously they do, but just the whole, like, you know, back then you had like raw talent. That's how you did it. But now there's even talk that they're going to, have the mechanically it's going to tell you if it's a strike or if it's a, curveball or whatever.
The
and
robo
I
umpires.
don't know. Yeah. I mean, this whole thing is just like, I can't even figure out how to get the internet on. So there you go. See, it's just blowing our mind. But anyway, but Eric still does the thing, some stuff for the Indians, and we go and do their fantasy camp every year. And that is super cool. I don't know if you've ever had anybody to go, but wow, those fantasy camps are pretty awesome.
I haven't seen those.
You haven't? Well, what it is it's obviously for charity. But all the teams have them. And what they do is they go to, their spring training. And for 1 week, players or coach families, it would be like, let's say you, your brother, your dad. I mean, if you've been like, we do for the Indians, so I'll use them for example. But we have, I think the first year Eric did it, there was a dad, a grandpa, and like the 3 sons and a couple son-in-laws. There was like 5 or 6 people from one family that came. And they literally play like they're a baseball player. They've got their locker rooms, their jerseys.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, everything they do is pretty amazing. It's like for them, and it's a super cool thing to do. But it blew my mind because, when we played, we didn't even realize that there was things like that.
Right.
But now that we're retired, it's pretty cool.
Have you seen, what I have? Sorry, David. Have you seen, I can't remember which teams they are, but they're doing the players' wives for 2 different teams, or they're playing like a softball game against each other?
Yeah.
I've seen those. Those are kind of cool.
Too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did them. And back to the kids, when you were asking me about my kids, well, when we went to Cleveland, that was when, my son was, more alert or whatever. When you have a baby, a lot of the wives' room won't let the babies be a part of the wives' room because, they're little. They have to, be potty trained or something. Everybody's got different rules.
Yeah.
But, and, like until the playoffs come, like you really, I think at that time, like even Oakland was letting us have 1 road trip a year that they would let everybody go on. But for the most part, it was like you didn't get to travel with them or anything. So when we would have go to the game, that was like my daycare.
Yeah.
So it was super cool. And then my son, he was super fortunate because he's, he was not into baseball. Because for my husband, he didn't feel that was where your kid needed to be. I mean, I guess like if you knew that your son, lived with a baseball in his hand, then you would do everything you could. But our son really wasn't into baseball. And so Eric, he felt like that was, coming from his Yankee years, it was a job. It wasn't a playground. It wasn't like you don't take your kids to the locker room. They can come in for a few minutes or whatever. But basically, that was Dad's work. And an off day was an off day for him. It was a family barbecue. It was, we're not going to have, like, soon as I come to the ballpark, our son's name's Eric too. And it's not like he's going to go to the locker room and just hang out, and so he would stay in the wives' room, and they had Slider, the mascot. So it was super cool because he did all the acts with Slider. They would call him and go out. But I mean, for the kids, that's like a whole different atmosphere for them as well, because somebody asked my son one time, said, oh, how did you like your dad playing baseball or whatever? And he goes, oh, you mean leaving your house and moving all the time and having to get friends in different places?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's the first time I ever like really thought about it that way. But it's tough on them. I think at one point our son was playing, he was being tutored by a tutor and trying to keep up with the schoolwork here in California because he went to a private school. And then in Cleveland, he started school there because I wanted him to have the whole school atmosphere, so he would, go to school. And then he would also have the tutor keeping up with his California work and then doing the work from the school in Cleveland as well. So he had, and then I finally got to where Big Eric would go and meet him, have lunch with him on, before he'd go to the ballpark or whatever, because it's tough. I mean, they don't get to see their dads. And, when they do, I mean, they're exhausted. And especially in Cleveland, we had the years that were championship years because it was so draining on the players. I mean, it always is when there's a championship year because they want them to do everything, which, I mean, it's part of the job. They understand that. But, It's just a lot. I mean, even a new stadium and just all of that, it's like our parking lot, people don't understand that like our parking lot's fenced in, but yet people would just be lined up around the parking lot. And I'm telling you, you could sign, 1,000 autographs and that 1,001 person would be mad. And, they would talk smack on you because you didn't do it. But,
right.
this would be like when they're there at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and then they have to be at the ballpark at 10 o'clock for a day game. So, people don't understand, the backside of the game. They just think, oh, they're making tons of money and, whatever. But it's a life and it's tough. Eric and I were talking about it the other day, and he said, baseball is one of the only sports, or sports anyway, that you read in the paper the next day and, got your name on the back of your jersey and everybody knows you and everybody knows what you do. And, it's just, it's a lot. So when you feel like that you can't perform the way that you really want to perform or that you feel that you can, that's time to hang your cleats. And for him, I mean, fortunately, he never had surgery at all. He's never had any arm injuries or anything.
That's amazing.
He what pretty much took him out is, like his bone spurs. He got bone spurs, and that was like, serious for him.
Yeah.
And another thing too is, with pitchers, a lot of your strength comes from your hips. And, when he just felt like he couldn't do it anymore, he just didn't want to be ridiculed and stuff thrown at, and because people are cruel.
Oh, people are bad.
Yeah.
It's so, and it's so much of what you just said in the last couple of minutes. I wonder how different it is with social media now. Because kids, 30 years ago, you'd come home if you got made fun of and you still had the safety of home. Now you just get ridiculed all day in social media. So with baseball players, I wonder if they just turn it off more.
Well, I talked to, when we go to Cleveland, a couple times a year. Eric does the golf tournament and different things like that. And he does, autograph sessions and stuff for them. And then doing the fantasy camp. And so we see, quite a few people every year, and talking to them, back whenever Eric played, it was like, the guys I remember Carlos Baerga had a boom box he carried. That was like the music, today. I mean, even I think it was just like probably our first year in Cleveland was when we got our first cell phone. But nowadays, they said that they, tell the guys, I'm not there, so I'm just telling you from, what one of the people that we know that pretty much knows. But they say, they really do, tell the guys. They always have like the top officials that come out and let them know what the scams are that's going out, different things like that for the players, and say, watch out for this and this and this. And, they just really try to guard the guys. And they said nowadays it's like guys are really afraid to even go out to like a nightclub or something because, some's going to do it, but some of them are, even if they take a picture and they were at a bar and, a girl was next to them and stuff. I mean, the media just blows up on it. It couldn't be a friend, of course, so they're really afraid to do anything. And one of the guys, it's a clubhouse guy that used to drive Eric's truck out every year at the end of the season for us. And we're good friends with him. And he said that the locker rooms, it's like, I'm sure every team's different, but he said it's not like the camaraderie like it used to be. He said, back in the day, because our friend was there, when Eric played, and, the guys got along and they kind of, ragged each other and stuff. And he said, now it's totally different. Everybody's on their phone and, social media and everything. Cause it's a big money, everybody's getting paid for it. So, that's their life. I mean, if you're making 50 million, I don't think you really need social media, but whatever. I mean, I guess you do. Why not make 100 million, right?
True.
Who knows? Yeah,
Tyler, if you're making 36 million a year, you don't need social media.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing about like all of that too, I mean, I'm off for it. I'm like, hey, let them make as much as they can, because, I know from the other side of it, being in baseball and now out of baseball, it's not like they can say, oh, I can swing a bat. Let me go and swing a bat and make, do a charity event that, I'm going to make tons of money, or, just an event, not charity, because, they do charity stuff. But what I'm trying to say is at this point of the game, we're on the other side. And it's not like a singer who can go and make a new album or do a circuit. You know, this is it. When they're in the game, this is it. This is the money they're making. And, you know, when they get out, there's a lot of things that they don't tell them when they get out of the game. Like for Eric, he was 38 years old. And when he retired, and I mean, it's a lot to adjust once you get home. I mean, baseball's one thing, but baseball players are used to being on a regimented routine. And when they get out of the structure and they come to retire, it's like, wait a minute, where's my place in life? You know, like as a mom, you know, or a wife, we're taking the kids to school, we're doing all the stuff that we need to do. And, you know, we've got our routine, we're making dinner, breakfast, whatever. But when the guys get out, it's not, I mean, they've got money, but, you know, what else do they have? I mean, you can only travel so much, you can only do all that, but it's going to 3 different schools by the time he retired. And I'm like, we can't just pick up and go. We've got, you know, kids to go to school. And, you know, it's just a big adjustment once they get out. So, and that's something that they don't really, you know, tell people. They're like, yeah, you'll get a pension, but you got to pay for your insurance. You know what I'm saying? Like little things, it could be little to big that like, They don't prepare you for stuff like that. It's like, here's you a lot of money, have fun, invest it, do well. But, you know, they don't tell you that like after, you know, we haven't been divorced, but let's just say 2 or 3 marriages, divorces, you know, players. I mean, we've seen it with a lot of them. And then it's like, you know, there's guys that's like, thank goodness they do have their pension, because that's, you know, that's life-saving for them. So
what was that like for you adjusting when he did retire? I mean, part of you was probably really happy, but part of you was also probably really sad too.
Yeah. Like to be honest with you, I really thought that he would give it a little, you know, that he would try a little harder, like his agent and him. I thought that he would kind of, you know, buy a little time kind of thing, you know, but Eric already had his 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's when you're fully vested in the game. And so he had already been to the World Series. You know, only thing he didn't do in his career was go to the All-Star game. He almost would have, but that was the strike year. And his numbers would have been good, and he would have probably gone to the All-Star game that year. But anyway, he didn't make it there, and that's the only thing that I guess, you know, he didn't get to do. But he's got a ring for everything else, you know. It's just that's pretty much what, you know, the players strive for. And so at the end of his 10 years, I mean, you look at it and you're like, wow, you know, yeah, we've got money. How much money can you have? You're going to miss your whole kid's life, you know. So he was ready to get out. And now looking back on it, you know, I was always like, oh, surely he'll just go back and we'll play a little bit more. And in fact, when he retired, the Cubs did call when he was at home and say, and they wanted him to come and just go to spring training. And, you know, so because it was in the spring training and they were needing pitchers. And so he went and, you know, they were like, oh, we'll call you up in a month. You know, we just want to make sure that you're good, whatever. Yeah. And they called somebody else up and Eric was like, peace out, I'm gone, you know. So, you know, because by then it's funny because when we were in Cleveland, we were like the veterans on the team. It's the craziest thing. Like I look back on it now and I'm like, oh yeah, we had already been in the big league at that time, I think 5 or 6 years. And, you know, so we were considered the veterans. And it's funny because at that time we were, you know, 32 years old and we're veterans.
Yeah.
So you kind of rush.
That's the baseball age there.
And sure. Like you rush your life and you're like, oh my gosh, we're so old and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, when you're in it, then you're like, oh, I can't wait to like retire or whatever. And then it's like when it happens, you're like, okay, could I just have one day back?
Yeah.
Because man, it's pretty awesome. You know, like I loved every single day of our baseball life. And, you know, and Eric always tells me, he's like, you did. Yeah. Because you weren't out there like having to perform and, you know, work out every day and do all this. But you know what, for him, he just loved the pitching. You know, there was nothing better for him to get the call in the bullpen and run in off the field. And that's the high for him. You know, but all the sitting around time, like our daughter played softball and volleyball, and, you know, our son played Little League for a while, and our other daughter, she rode horses, you know, and Eric would go and he'd be like, dude, this is just like watching the grass grow. And I'm like, duh, what'd we do for how many years, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, this is the most boring thing. But anyway, it's just because he's got to be doing something all the time. So, yeah, but it's super cool. Like I said, when we go back to when we go back to Cleveland and, whatever, I mean, I love it. I was really sad, though, through his career that he never played for the Angels, because I was hoping that he would at least, maybe kind of just on his way out, just played there. But anyway, they didn't want him. I don't know. Why.
That would have
He's
been
a good
cool.
guy.
Well, well, that's because
Should be his
the Angels
agent.
are allergic to pitching. So.
Oh yeah. They don't
Yeah.
want anybody really good there, I think. But even still, I mean, he could go and be a coach now, or whatever. So
No,
that would be cool.
he'd probably be their third best pitcher if he was coming back right now.
Yeah, I think he could. I think he could still go and pitch. He gives pitching and hitting lessons now, and he still throws the ball. It's funny because one of the kids that he gives lessons to, the granddad that brings the grandson, said, it was a couple of years ago, and he said, I'm telling you, he said, I used to play, everybody used to play, and they got their kids so far, but they can't get them to the next level or whatever. So, but this granddad, he did legitimately, play. And he said, hey, I'm telling you, don't stop, like whatever you do, keep throwing, because if you don't use it, you lose it. He said, I'm telling you, that's what happens. And man, we went to June Lake over the summer, and Eric was skipping rocks, and I'm like, are you serious? Like, you can't throw that right now? And he was like, no, I can. No, I'm just kidding. He can throw. He can still throw. He still has a really good arm on him. But I thought it'd go a little further than it did. But but it is true. He says that too. He says if you don't actually, continue throwing, it's hard to just pick up a ball and think you're gonna, do it because you've done it your whole life. So there's definitely conditioning that you have to do to keep it up.
Did you hear
and
that,
he
Tyler?
does.
Yeah, I heard that.
Were you a pitcher, Tyler?
No, I was an infielder.
Oh,
But
and you played in college?
I played in college. I played at UCLA, and then I was drafted by the Cardinals, and I played 3 seasons in the minor leagues for them.
Oh, look
before
at
I got
you
canned.
go.
But
Oh, yeah. That must have been not their good years, because I'm sure they would have wanted you to go to the World Series with them, right?
2011 was when I got drafted, and they won the World Series that year.
Yeah.
Okay.
That manager there was Tony La Russa. That was Eric's manager with Oakland.
Yeah,
So
legend right there.
yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
I didn't
So-
look this up. I meant to. Did he play with I don't know if it crossed over at all, but with Mike Gallego at all?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I'm really good friends with Nico, his son,
Mm-hmm.
who he played at we played at UCLA together.
Yeah, well, Nico is a twin, and I
Yep,
used
with
to push
Joe.
them in their stroller, and I would hold one of the other kids, because when we were at Oakland, I didn't have kids, and so I helped his mom
No
carry
way.
out all the time, and I was always carrying one of the kids, because she had twins, and she only had one set of hands, but
Yep.
she's amazing.
Yep.
Karen's
She's
amazing.
awesome.
She could do it. Yeah, she can do. I mean, that lady's incredible.
Hey, speaking of,
I love
you're talking about the wives kind of being like a family together and helping each other out. Right there, you're helping.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I remember that, just everybody knew that I would be more than happy to, help out and carry kids, because I'm from the South. So we all had, lots of kids and
Yeah.
families and whatever. And you just did it. Nobody had to ask you. You knew that if the kid had to go to the bathroom, one of the kids, you'd watch the other ones. And, just a little side note, people know that there's a family section in every ballpark, and it's really sad sometimes the way that, I mean, a lot of it's probably alcohol too, because, people drink and they don't really care or whatever. But, there's been some incidents where, people have said, they obviously, if you look at a section and there's a bunch of beautiful women and little kids, it's probably going to tell you that's the wives section,
Yeah.
and some of these people, they just don't even care. I mean,
No.
we all have feelings, and it's their kids are sitting there.
Right.
And when the people are blasting, your husband or whatever, it's hurtful, just like anything it is. And it's we do it because, our husbands are blessed to have great arms or talent that they can do what they're doing, but it's a job for them as well. And it's a life for us. And so I just, if anything I can stress, there's just, a lot of things that people just need to, kind of soften up a little bit. That's a team, and there's nothing that you're going to say to us that's going to make our husbands perform any better, because believe me, every time they go out there, they're wanting to perform great, and
Of course.
sometimes you just don't have it, sometimes you do.
That's baseball.
So that's right. That's life. It's just the way it goes.
Yep.
But, yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
So, But hey, I'm glad that you're friends with him. His brother's a doctor now.
Yeah, I know. He was. I don't know where he's at now. I haven't heard where Joseph, but he was in Minneapolis for a while, I think.
And his sister's engaged. I think she just got
Allie?
engaged. Uh-huh.
I haven't kept up
Yeah.
with Allie, but yeah, we used to hang out with his brothers and sisters. I mean, he's probably my best friend. From my playing days.
Yeah, that's cool. I
Yeah.
know. Baseball's such a small world. Everybody's like, somebody's lives someplace or, knows someplace. That's what I'm saying. It's like, that's the thing that I guess if, when guys get out of baseball, I think it's really, sad because their camaraderie is with their teammates when they're playing. And, like in the bullpen, when Eric sat there, it was like, I could watch in the stands and I would know everything that he was doing pretty much. And, from the time that he blew me kisses or, would wink at me, or we had our little hand signals that we did. And then, you get out of the game and it's just like, you're friends with the ones that you're friends with, but life goes on. And it's really sad that, there's not really, it's a big world and you have to like make friends with people, neighbors and stuff. But it's sad sometimes to think that you play baseball or something for how many years. And it's like, now there's just nothing. Of course, a lot too was when we played, everybody didn't really have like the cell phones and all the social media and stuff. So thank goodness for Facebook because, now everybody's been able to reconnect.
Yeah.
And it's really funny too, because when we do that fantasy camp, there's like all kinds of like Mike Jackson. I don't know if you know him, Mike Jackson. He was a pitcher, and Chad Auger and Paul Shuey. And let's see, a couple more guys. And of course, Eric and Corey Snyder. Watch what you say. He's a good guy.
No, I'm just thinking back to my 80s days.
I know. I'm going to take you way back. But anyway, those guys, they were the coaches. Now they're all the coaches at the fantasy camp. Because what it is the players, they go and the fans get picked and they have a draft and everything. And these guys are like, they're coaches. And then the very last day that they're there, the players play against them. So it's super cool because, these guys, if they had a dream playing against Carlos Baerga or, having Eric throw them a pitch or something like that, it's, and they have like a trivia night, they have a kangaroo court,
nice.
Everything. So everything they do. And some teams even put together a golf tournament in it for that week stay, but it's a really big thing for people. But, and all the money goes to charity. So it's super cool. But anyway, but all these guys, they go and after they're done doing the stuff with the team at night, they all come to, it's always been our room that they come to. And I'm telling you, if you could hear the stories of these guys, like, dude, do you remember when I pitched to that guy? And it's like, they get up and they're animated and they're throwing, and it's like, what kind of, you threw him a 2-seam fastball. You did this, you did that. And it's just, it's hysterical that here these guys are like in their 50s now. And they're all like, still getting up and like, just, I don't know.
There's games and at-bats that they won't ever forget. And you remember exactly what you threw in this count. And
yeah. It's their frat, I guess you could say. But it's super cool because it's, one more time they go out there and they're like, are you going to pitch on the last day? And they're like, I don't know if I can pitch. It's like, my back's kind of sore. I just had a hip replacement or, it sucks getting old.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have a great time, though, doing that. And still, like, anytime we go back and we do anything baseball related, I still get butterflies just like I did when I first met my husband. It's like, my heart's always been there and it's always going to be. It's like, but sad part is there's not really a lot of players, still married to their significant other that we played baseball with. So that's the cool thing about us. When we go back, it's like, I can actually share those things with Eric and I can be like, hey, I remember those, exactly what happened. So, because life's not easy, as you guys well know. You guys are young, but, there's a lot of transitions that we all have to go through, and especially like being in the sport and getting out of the sport and just trying to, re-identify yourself in life, and there's another part too. I said one thing about us is, I'm Eric Plunk's wife, but without Eric, I'm Billie. And, I have to re-identify myself as that, if something happened to the two of us. So it's, sad. It's in a lot of ways, but, I love him. We're going to stay together, I guess. Yeah, we'll be together
That's awesome.
forever.
Hopefully Eric's listening to this.
No, he's actually not, but he was earlier, and I was pretty nervous about it because I'm like, I'm not Sharon Hartgrove because that's who she's got, books and everything and story of her life, and so she's awesome. If you ever get a chance to interview Sharon, you should, because I don't care what, you could probably call her and she'd talk to you, but she's got 5 kids and she's been like a mother to everybody. I remember one time, just, I don't know how much time we have, but I remember when we went to Cleveland and we were at the old stadium, and speaking of Sharon Hartgrove, and she said that Eric was out in the bullpen, and my son, he was 2.5 at that time, he got a sunflower seed stuck up his nose. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? How can I get this out? So I go to the wives' room, and Sharon comes in there with me, and here Eric's in the bullpen, and the security's like, Plunk's kid's got a sunflower seed in his nose, and he hears it on the microphone, or on the little microphone thing, and it's just like, oh, geez, what's going on here? He's supposed to go in and pitch in the game, and I'm supposed to be like dealing with my kid, and it's like, so she comes in and she just says, tell him to blow it, and I was like, tell him to blow it, and she was like, yeah, just tell him to blow it out. I was like, okay, and he did, and everything was fine. But I'm telling you, it's like 5 kids. I guess that's her knowledge of being in baseball. All the years that she'd been, she could tell me that. So,
that's awesome.
But that's what I'm saying. Everybody sticks together. Like when you're in the game, we all, we try to have our little get-togethers, and there's Bible studies, there's everything you can think of. We all try to do some kind of get together at least one time on the homestand, celebrate birthdays, whatever. But then you leave and you don't talk to them anymore because it's off season unless you live close to them. And then everybody gets reunited in spring. Right. Some people are there and some aren't. So anyway, it's a funny thing. It's a funny sport. All the sports are.
Yeah. Yeah. But baseball
is
the best. Baseball's the best sport.
I kind of liken it. I think
so too. Yeah, I think so too. Out of all the games, though, Eric was just telling me, he's like, yeah, there's 182 games and 30 games, and we probably moved. I think we figured it up one time. We moved like 48 times in our relationship.
Jeez.
Wow.
So yeah. So anyway, now we're just like, okay, I guess we're here, but we get antsy, and right now being cooped up, it's like, gee, we're ready to go. Like we got to be doing something. But he's now into golf. Pretty serious.
Okay.
So yeah.
Where do you guys
say
golf
when he played baseball?
Out in Corona.
Everywhere. But he said he used to say when he played baseball, he was like, man, I hope I never get so bored that I have to golf to stay busy. Well, guess what? He's there now.
That's all right. So, golf is a great sport as well.
Yeah. But he's frustrated because being the perfectionist that he is, and the competitive side, he's every day that stupid game changes. And he's like, every day it's like a little ball. How come I can't hit it?
Well,
I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, baseball and golf are so closely related with the mental side of the game, because I'm always, telling people about how much of, some people don't really realize how much of the mental aspect that baseball requires for you to actually be successful. But golf is the exact same way.
Yeah. He loves it. He still hangs out with Jeremy Burnett's, in San Diego. He hangs out with Jeremy a lot, and they're hunters. I don't know if I can say that, but anyway, they're hunters and fish and whatever, and it's a sport, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, they did that for years, and now they still hang out together, and Jeremy has a ranch out by Pala, and they go out there, just shooting every once in a while, just out. But anyway, he still hangs out, and the two of them, they get together, and that's what I was saying about how everything's going to be electronically now. They and to hear Jeremy being a hitter, and Eric being a pitcher, and the two of them talk about the way that they feel about it is like, there's definitely some fire going.
Yeah.
Because the pitchers, some of them, they think it's okay, and the hitters are like, no, I want to go up there and I want to like rope, So I don't want that to be dictated. But anyway, it is what it is. But but it's been, everything about it's been a great life. I would go back in a minute, and I'm just like, if they called Eric, I'm always the one that when they text, or because when they text or call, they always have my number, because I don't know why. I think I'm the most stable one in the relationship. And I'm like, did you call that reporter? Did you do this? And he was like, no, I'll do it. And I was like, now you need to do it. But the other day, the article that was, just out, he was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then he did it. And he was like, now he like, yeah, I'm glad I did it. It's like walking down memory lane. And that's what all this stuff is. It's so cool to just go down and, talk about your life. And it's funny because one time I said, to our kids, when we tell them about our life in baseball, it's almost like when your parents say, oh yeah, I was in the military and I went here and I did that. And you're just like, oh geez, that story again, they were in Germany or whatever, and I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm just saying when they tell you and you're just like, okay, we've heard that same story over and over. And, it's an honor, but it was an honor to play baseball too. And for us, we're like, yeah, we did this. And, there's like, oh yeah, really? Okay, cool. Yeah. World Series. But, unless they follow baseball or are diehard fans, and our kids really aren't. The girls are, the boys, their son's not. So our son, he's a DJ, so he's not really into baseball. And anyway, our kids they're great. One's going to be a nurse and the other one's a model. So yeah, we got 3 great kids. So
that's awesome.
Anyway, so that's what we do. So yeah, if you want to play golf, Eric will play golf with you.
Hey, I'll take you. I'll take him up on that since you're volunteering him. My golf game is okay.
Yeah, I'll send him down there. Yeah, but he plays out here in Corona because there's so many golf courses out here. Great, 7 golf courses I think around where we live. So
I go out to that place in Norco. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Hidden Valley.
Yeah, I like that course. Nico Gallego put me onto that one, so he and I would go and play. Yeah.
And they have Trilogy and Dos Lagos.
Yeah, played both of those.
Trilogy, Dos Lagos, everything. So yeah, there's a lot of them around here.
Yeah.
So super cool. So yeah.
As soon as all this stuff gets lifted, I'll head out there and play some golf.
Yeah, then you guys can have him on or whatever. But yeah, it's cool.
That would be awesome. Yeah, we'd love to get his side of all of the 14 seasons as well. So
yeah, it's cool. Like I said, it's a awesome opportunity. I feel very fortunate to have been a part of it. And, I went to a little bit of college. He didn't go to college at all. And that's another thing, that's kind of interesting about it. You play 20-year career, 16 years in the big leagues, and you come out and it's like to be a coach for somebody. Oh, you don't have a college degree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it sucks. You know, it's like now you've got got all this experience, but, he can't go coach, because he doesn't have a college degree.
Right.
And I guess he could go back. I mean, it's really cool. I just read that article where Williams, I think is his name. He was with the Cardinals and he just got his doctorate degree.
Yeah. I did see that too. That's really cool.
And he's going to help in New York, you know, so that's cool. And then I think Cody Bellinger, his dad went back and is a fireman. Yeah. After he retired, he went back. And so it's really cool when you hear these guys, they go back and do different things and,
never too late.
So
never too late.
Never too late. No.
It's a whole life lesson on itself.
Yeah, it is. So super
cool.
cool.
Do you think you guys enjoy baseball more now that you're not invested in the game itself, that you're not invested in his success on a game than, let's say, you were every single time?
Yeah. Like when we go back to Cleveland, I mean, we obviously like for a team to win when we're there. And it's fun, and it probably for about 5 years after he retired, it was super cool because we still knew people in the game. And now that people, that we knew our coaches, it's kind of like, all right, we don't really know these guys. Mm-hmm. We always watch, of course, the playoffs and World Series and stuff like that, but there's a lot of games, lot, every year. And, you're doing real life stuff now. Right. He gives lessons every evening and he loves it. He gets to be a part of the kids. He interviewed a couple times. He really would love to be the coach or be a coach for Lake Elsinore because that's right by where we live. Yeah. And he interviewed a couple times with them, and because he doesn't really want to leave home. He would like to stay close to home if he did something like that. But and that is right here. So, but he said with him, he loves the camaraderie with the guys, the locker rooms and stuff like that. But then having to pick up your life and go back on the bus and, do different things like that. You got to be willing to sacrifice a lot of that too, because that's the way they travel. Yep. And anyway, he said that he wasn't really, I think in the interview, he said something like he wasn't really into moving up with the organization. He was happy if it, was just there.
If he stayed there,
and
yeah.
I would have thought that would have been a great thing because, he could get kind of, they knew they would know what they had as far as coaching goes and, the stability and stuff like that. But, baseball, it's only, like I said, you're only as good as your last outing. And it's like, you know what? The times have changed so much. I mean, now just they've evolved to be so much now. Like we were talking to some of the guys when we went to Arizona, and they were saying how now they've got, I don't know, we don't really understand it, but they got some kind of back thing or a strap thing that they put over the guys now. And basically it's mechanically, like they tell everything about the players. And it's just crazy to think that the way things happen. And then, Eric said now the way he feels, he's like, everything's going to have an asterisk beside of it though, because, how can you take away from like, something that Mickey Mantle did, when he played, as far as what's going on today. It's like, everything's just a lot of twisted stuff goes on in the game today too. I mean, just, with the Astros and, I don't, it's just sad, it's super sad. And, that's not really my place to say anything about that because I wasn't actually on the field, but, it's just super sad because there's always something that goes on in the game. I mean, I think when Eric played, it was like corking the bat. That was the big thing. Everybody thought everybody corked the bat.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Steroids.
They still might. Yeah. Steroids. That was a big thing. Yeah. He's on that baseball card. That was his top prospect baseball card with Jose Canseco. At the time, it was worth $50. Now it's probably 50 cents. Kind of a bummer.
Should have cashed in.
Of those I could sell. I should have been, but anyway. But like Eric always says, he goes, everything's got a price. You just got to find somebody that wants to buy it.
That's right. That's
right. You get whatever for it. So yeah, but yeah, it's just sad. Travis Fryman, he's the player development for Cleveland.
Yeah.
And he said, he was telling us how, what they do today, putting they have everything like down as far as the speed goes. And I mean, it's just amazing all the technology they got today in the game.
Oh yeah.
Before long, they'll just be robots out there playing.
Every game will just be simulated.
Yeah. Yeah. But what happened to the old, like stick ball, like, in the Dominican, those kids get out there and they just like play and no shoes on. And, they're just like playing, like kickball, like we used to play, but with a stick and a ball. And, it's amazing how all those kids like materialize and turn into be these great players.
Yeah. I think Dave and I both kind of lean towards the baseball purist side. And I like seeing the way the game was played. I don't like seeing too much change in the game. Yeah. I think David's the same way. But
yeah, like Eric's kids that he gives lessons to today, he's like, a lot of the kids just, come in and it's dedication. Eric didn't start playing baseball until he was 10 years old. And,
wow.
He told his dad, well, they figured it out because his brother went to UCLA and financially it was kind of hard for the family. And so his parents said, we'd like for you to try to obviously get a scholarship. And so they picked a sport because Eric was pretty good in basketball and baseball. And then, football too, but he probably would have he's 6'6", so he would have liked to maybe play basketball.
Yeah.
But or obviously quarterback. Everybody wants to be quarterback. But anyway, his parents said just try to get a scholarship, and so he, was fortunate enough to sign out of high school. But the way that they figured it out, they went and it didn't interfere. This baseball didn't interfere with their hunting season, so that's why he was like, okay, I'll be baseball. But his dad, I remember them talking about like his dad made this thing with a tire. Like a thing around the tire and put it at the catcher's where the catcher would stand. Yeah. And Eric would just throw baseballs into that hole of the tire that was in the this trapeze kind of thing that his dad made. And I remember going out and, the dedication. Kids don't have that today. It's really sad. I mean, there'll be a few that, can do it, but they just, how the video games have just taken them away from a lot of activity outside. It's super sad. So, but the scholars will be there. The ones that's talented, they'll shine through. They always do.
Right.
So yeah, super cool.
Go ahead, David.
No, go ahead.
No. I didn't have anything.
I didn't have anything either. I think that was awesome. There was so much stuff I didn't even think about after the game ends that came up today. So
yeah.
Now
and one thing too is I just also you guys know too, because you see it. It's like the mental health part of today's society, and what goes on with just once the guys get out and their worth, they don't really feel like they're part of society. It's super hard because they have to re-identify themselves as well and being just a dad.
Yeah.
And some guys they take it and they run with it, and other guys they just it's funny because like Eric's told me a lot of times, like he went out and it was like he was pretty shy when he played baseball, and I couldn't figure out how he could be in a stadium with 50,000 people and be shy. It's crazy. It's like, but that was kind of what he was trained to do. But then when he came out, it was hard for him to, really just talk to people, because he got a little, sometimes would get tired of talking about baseball. He wanted to be a normal person. And, it's hard. You have people that come into your life and they kind of take advantage of you, and, because they know that you're rich and, oh, we've got this investment or this investment, we can do this. And, so you really have to watch your back, like all the time when you get out. It's a super sad thing, but there's vultures all over too, that's going to be at every aspect of life. But,
I can understand, I can understand the transition part. I mean, I've heard other guys say the same thing as soon as they've come out. And even for me, I granted I didn't play in the big leagues and I only played 3 years in the minors, but I needed a full year just to kind of decompress. I've talked about that before, and I didn't even watch baseball for a full year. I couldn't.
Right. Eric didn't either. He played, like I said, pretty much 30 years of your life. I mean, for him, 30 years of his life, from the time he was 10 all the way until he was 38.
Yeah.
Like that was his life. Like he played baseball. He did, everything around it. And then, once you get it thrown in the fire, I mean, he'll tell stories about like when it's his story is so amazing because he was telling how like whenever he got drafted from the Yankees, he was out mowing the lawn like with a lawnmower that like you push, not like the kind of, with the motor on it, but the kind that you just and his mom came out and was like, Eric, somebody's on the phone. They say they're with the Yankees. And he was like, oh, okay. And goes in and it was like, yeah, this is Bill Livesey with the New York Yankees. We just got you in the draft. And he was like, oh, okay. It's just kind of like, it's weird, because, and then from there, it went rolling. It was like, okay, they let him come back so he could graduate and stuff, because he was like gone. I mean, everything was all different back in those days. But he's just like, nowadays, I don't even know if they do stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, come back and graduate in June. We're going to sign you right now. And I don't know, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So he's got a story for you. Everybody does.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to talk to him, but we really appreciate you taking the time out today.
No problem.
Yeah. It was,
appreciate it.
A lot of really cool stuff. So we really thank you.
Anyway, well, thanks guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Okay, if there's anything else you need, let me know.
Will do.
If you need a co-host, I'll be there.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Billie.
You'll have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.